Story 1. After 10 years of friendship, they ghosted me over owing me $350. Never lend money to friends you are not willing to lose, both the friends and the money. Story 2. My mom, dad, sister, and brother all died within 2 years. My friend of 40 years said I have too much drama in my life and it is not good for her. That is what she said. Story 3. Two guys being best friends might seem unusual to some. This was my best friend from 1st to 5th grade. We were very close, but when we went to middle school, that ended because he was afraid of being perceived as gay. People have friends, and that's completely normal. To be fair, his parents were also going through a difficult divorce, and it affected him deeply. Story 4. He went on a drunken racist rant against me for 5 minutes. When he was done, I said, "I'm taller than you." And that was apparently too much for him. Story 5. She stopped talking to me because I opened chips too loud during a movie. I thought she was joking. She was not. We never spoke again. Story 6. I did not make my 3-year-old daughter play with the boy who shoved his hand up her shorts. Apparently, I should have been more inclusive of his needs. Story 7. The selfish person had a heart attack and died. I am going to give them a piece of my mind when I get there. Story 8. I did not have time for their last-minute move. They had been talking about it for 2 months. I told them repeatedly that I had a festival to attend because a move is not a life or death situation. Story 9. I messaged my friend, who is also my direct neighbor, around midnight. Her dog had been barking for over an hour outside in the backyard. It was very cold outside. I knew she had been drinking and often passed out. She was home alone because her boys were at their dad's. I messaged at first to ensure she was okay, but I also wanted the dog to be quiet. I had to sleep for work in the morning. She got furious when I asked if she was okay and expressed my concern about the dog being outside in negative 15 degrees weather for over an hour. We never spoke again after that night. Story 10. The owner of the establishment came up to say hi to me and called me by an affectionate nickname. She thought the man was approaching her because she is very beautiful, as she says. Story 11. I was heartbroken over a guy who stopped communicating with me. She said I could not stop talking about it. She was completely right. I could not. I do feel bad. But she never told me that it was bothering her. She just tried to start dating him. No lie. Story 12. A couple I have known for a few years suddenly told me I was dangerous to them because I have a friend on Facebook they do not like. Someone I have not seen in 2 years. Apparently, I was going to their home to spy on them and report their activities to this person. They got their group of close friends to block me on Facebook as well as my partner, who has known them for about 15 years. Story 13. My best friend of 3 years in high school decided to stop talking to me one day. I asked if we were still friends, and she said no. I asked why, and she said she didn't know. I just said okay and left it at that. She tried reconnecting a couple of years ago, but I left her message unread. I was not sure how I felt about it. How do you just welcome someone back who walked away for no reason? Story 14. I found someone who makes me happy. He was really upset that I didn't want to be depressed with him anymore. His long rant before he blew up at me was about how I don't vent to him about feeling bad anymore. Maybe it's because I am finally getting support in my life. Story 15. He asked, "Why can't we just be friends on my terms?" I replied, "Because that is not how friendship works." He said, "Well, I guess we cannot be friends then." And that was it. Story 16. They misread the tone of one of my text messages, and instead of asking me about it, they went quiet and let it spiral into an elaborate story in their head about how I must have meant something else. Then they shared that with all our mutual friends over one straightforward line that they thought had another implied meaning. We were in our late 20s. Story 17. She told me my outfit was ugly, and I said, "You are being kind of mean right now. I am going to go home." As soon as I got in my car to leave, she blocked me on all platforms. She was supposed to be a bridesmaid in my wedding. We had never even had an argument before this. She was the kind of person who always had something negative to say about everyone else. I am glad she is not in my life anymore. Story 18. For me, my whole life it has been, Someone said you said this about me or said you did this. I never said or did that, but they would never believe me. And the people varied over time. So strange. Story 19. There are two recent examples. 1. Someone was upset that I charged $20 per hour to clean her home. I have professional level cleaning experience, and cleaners in my area charge $40 to $100 per hour. I used to help her as a kindness with other tasks, such as carrying groceries, taking out the trash, getting her mail, and asking if she needed anything when I went to the store because she had 6 spinal surgeries in 1 year. Someone was upset with me for how they mishandled their money. They impulsively spent $3,400 of their $4,000 budget within the first 5 days of the month. That is not my fault. Story 20. Right out of high school, I wore a Star of David necklace to embrace another religion. I am a recovering Catholic. Lori stopped talking to me, stopped calling, and had other plans when I invited her over. Years later, she phoned to tell me about her life and said she hoped I had gotten over my devil-worshipping phase. I was totally confused until she recounted the day I wore a pentagram to a luncheon with a mutual friend who now lived in California. It was a Star of David necklace. Story 21. Any person who stopped being my friend the second I had a boyfriend, or when I separated from my husband for a couple of weeks, the friends would come sniffing around, then immediately leave and try to be his friend again once we were back together. Like seriously, go away with that. I am more than just some random person. Story 22. I didn't like Titanic enough was the superficial reason. I didn't dislike it. I did like it, but I just wasn't over the moon for it like she was, probably because she was in love. Meanwhile, her boyfriend kept suggesting I should go hang out at his place without her. I always said no because that would seem weird. I was a good friend. They did get married. His face betrays a silent panic whenever I run into them. I'm sure she had a sense, and that's the real reason. Story 23. My wife approached him. He is a better person than she is. It did not happen, and I still resent her while I miss his friendship. Story 24. He moved away, and at that time I was in a lot of debt and could only afford to drive to and from work, not wasting petrol driving over 100 miles to see him. He complained that I never went to see him or his newborn baby, and after a while, the friendship just ended. I received several really unpleasant texts about 5 to 6 months later, and after that, I blocked his number. I have come to realize that some people are only in your life for a short period. Story 25. She married a person who hides their true identity for the money and became too proud to be seen with me. Honestly, I am probably better off. Story 26. I warned my friend Sean that another person, Jack, was imminently plotting unhinged revenge against him. Sean had previously ended his relationship with Jack because Jack was controlling and leaked his direct messages. Jack then became unstable and ended his relationship with me. Story 27. I moved 15 minutes away. We had a difficult situation and needed to move. My then best friend lived 2 streets away and kept telling me how great the neighborhood was and what a shame it would be if I moved away. Eventually, we got a house 15 minutes away and closer to my mother, so we took it. She became very upset when she found out and stopped talking to me, only calling when she needed me to drive her. I repeatedly said no because she called me every time I was at work. The last time, she ended the call abruptly, and I never heard from her again. I later heard from others that I was the one who ended the friendship and that I wasn't a true friend. Honestly, life became much easier after that. I hadn't realized how much stress she caused me until we stopped spending time together. Story 28. For movie night, he asked for something unusual. I picked Big Trouble in Little China. After watching it, he was so mad he never spoke to me or my wife again. Story 29. We were 17 and staying in his father's camper for a week by a river with another friend. It was our last night, and the weather was supposed to be stormy, so we planned to go into town for a movie. The other guy and I decided to get snacks to bring in. When we arrived at the theater, we called to ask what time he would be arriving to get tickets, but he never answered. We went back to the camper to check on him, only to find out from his father that he had gone home early. I did not hear from him again for almost 3 years. He never gave a reason for leaving or breaking off contact, but I received an invitation to his basic training graduation unexpectedly. I went and we seemed to mend the relationship. Then, there was no contact for another 5 years until our mutual friend decided to join the army. We were both attending his graduation. We talked for a bit, and he invited me to stay with him in Washington, D.C., for another event 3 months later. We continued to talk until I was an hour away from his house. He was staying on post, so I needed him to get me on the base. When I arrived at the agreed meeting place, he had blocked me on all social media and presumably blocked my phone number. He did not come to the event that weekend. It has now been an additional 8 years since I have heard from him, and I do not plan to give him another chance. Story 30. He snapped because I was hanging out with someone else, which was false. I live with that person and he is always sleeping or at work. Plus, he, a former friend, lived far away and I do not have a car. All he wanted to do was watch a hockey game of a team he knows I do not care about. He used to be a Toronto Maple Leafs fan like me, but then switched to Florida because he cannot deal with losing, and I am the one who does not want to watch the Panthers. I barely care about the Maple Leafs and hockey as it is. He gets upset because I do not want to force myself to watch a game while he gets high around his girlfriend's children. Story 31. She had to be the center of attention. She had multiple friends, but we could not be friends with each other. I had a separate group of friends, but she refused to do anything that involved them because she was not the leader of the group. I grew older during school days and continued doing things with other friends, even though I still hung out with her fairly often. She could not handle that. Sorry, I am not going to stop being friends with people because you want me to worship you. Story 32. I am still unsure to this day. I recall befriending this unusual kid in high school, and we were very close for a while. We hung out at his house for hours, had pool parties, talked at length, played games, and so on. Felt like we were cousins for a time, and then it was over. On my birthday, of all days, he started giving me the silent treatment for some reason, literally ignoring my existence entirely. First, I thought it was a joke. I had other things going on in high school, so I let it be for a few days. When I tried to talk to him, he tried to walk past me. Annoyed, I pushed him against the wall and said, "What's up?" He then gave a weak explanation for why he was mad, saying, "Oh, you were mean to me the other day." When I asked why he couldn't just talk to me, he shrugged. We became friends again, but it was not the same at all. I went to his house to hang out, but it felt forced, so I just walked home. Story 33. Her boyfriend convinced her I was a bad friend because I was not hanging out with them as much as I used to. I was working full-time Monday to Friday, attending university at night Monday to Friday and Saturday mornings, while going through a divorce. I was losing hair and going to therapy for depression. She later ended the relationship and apologized, and we are still friends. Story 34. Because I jokingly said, "You're welcome," after she did not thank me for holding the door for her. She was supposed to give me a ride home, but I heard her car screech away in the parking lot. Later, she had a mutual friend give me a message on ripped-up notepaper that said something about me being disrespectful. It was completely out of the blue, but looking back, she was unbelievably toxic, while I can be almost terminally laid back sometimes, and I do not miss her at all. Story 35. I got a tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis vaccine when I was pregnant. Apparently, my former friend and her family, parents, siblings, and extended family were all anti-vaccine. I was invited to a party they were having, and I had the bandage on my arm that I had left on from getting vaccinated that morning. My former friend asked about it, and I said what it was for. Everything went silent as if a record scratch had played. I have never had so many people get upset with me so quickly. Multiple people told me I had poisoned myself and my baby, repeating unfounded anti-vaccine talking points without scientific validity. I excused myself and left. That night, I received a message saying their family had discussed it, and she did not think it was right to remain friends with me. It was so unreasonable. Amanda, I hope you have reconsidered. Story 36. I told her if someone is given countless chances to change for the better and they still keep going back to the same bad choices, then that person is a bad person. I was talking about a character who canonically likes to watch people suffer and does not care about others, not real-life people. She said she cannot be friends with someone who does not believe in second chances. Story 37. She was just silly. She started a long conversation out of nowhere about how she hates liars. She kept going on about hating liars, and I wondered if she was trying to tell me she thought I lied to her about something. If I did or said something she believed was a lie, she could have talked to me about it. Instead, I received cryptic messages. This seemed too childish to me. Story 38. A different friend from the same friend group sent me a flash sheet from a tattoo artist who had designs themed around a particular musical artist, who happens to be my favorite artist. I was getting a tattoo that referenced the same song as a tattoo she had. The tattoo concepts were completely different. The song is one of their most well-known. The only connection between these two tattoos was that they referenced the same song. She took it to mean that I was copying her. She has a history of doing this sort of thing to people. I reckon if it wasn't the tattoo, it would have been something else down the line. Story 39. During an argument that they started, I said that the conversation was getting heated and we should pause and talk another time. In a way, I suppose I am still waiting for them to calm down enough for us to talk again. Story 40. She suddenly became vegan. I refused to give up meat. She stopped talking to me and many others because, and I quote, "You are savages." The funny thing is she was carrying a leather purse. I pointed out that as a vegan she should not use any product that came from animal exploitation. I think that was the last thing that upset her. Story 41. They bought plants, kept them, and named them after their friends. They bought a total of 3 for me. They all died. I told her that sounded about right. She was very upset and said we could not be friends anymore. Story 42. A friend I have known since childhood stopped talking to me because I offered to help him too much. He said he was tired of being treated like a charity case. I apologized and explained that friendship, in my opinion, means helping others. I cannot watch someone struggle if I know I can help, especially if that person is dear to me. However, evidently, cooking for someone who has no food can be emasculating. Story 43. I, a 25-year-old male, had a female friend, age 24, for 6 years. About 3 years into our friendship, I was going through a really rough time at home. I was raised to keep my problems to myself but always help others who needed help, so I kept it all inside. She urged me to open up to her and talk about my problems, saying, "A problem shared is a problem halved." She genuinely cared about me and wanted me to feel better. 3 years later, I had a very bad night. Without going into detail, I decided to send one long message outlining everything as a cry for help. She was the only person I felt I could truly trust, as we spoke almost daily for those 6 years. Nothing in the message concerned her. It was all personal issues she only had passing knowledge of. To this day, I don't really understand why. But she read my message and has not replied even after 2 years. Story 44. I told them I was taking a nap. After my nap, I went on a date. It turns out that was their mutual friend as well, and they were upset that I lied about sleeping. When I provided screenshots of our messages where I said I was taking a nap and would be up and around, they proceeded to block me. The person I went on a date with sent me a message calling me a heartless liar and blocked me too. I still think about how stupid it was. Story 45. Because their parents told them they should not mix races when dating or marrying. It is all good. My life turned out great, and their parents have a biracial grandchild. Story 46. Had a mentor and older best friend. His family basically adopted me for a while. My ex communicated because I told my fiancé he was cheating on her. Story 47. He started to make everything a competition. He always had to be better at something than me, and it got on my nerves. Friendship should never be a competition. You should be happy for your friend if he or you achieve something in life. Story 48. They heard a rumor that was not true. I am like, you have known me for years and you ought to know when a rumor is false or not. So if they are that easy to turn, good riddance to a phony friend. Story 49. Honestly, I have lost some friendships because I am not a mother yet. There was no drama, just that reason. I always made an effort to ask them how they were doing and about their children, but they never asked me how I was doing. Story 50. They moved. We were pretty close and really connected, but when they moved, they literally never reached out to me again. Now, he would respond if I made a comment on his Tumblr, but that was it. Never once did he initiate a conversation with me. I eventually just gave up. If I wasn't worth sacrificing a few seconds every few weeks, then I wonder why we were ever friends in the first place. Was I just a friend of convenience? He didn't really have many friends, so I wonder. I know I was his friend, but I am not so sure he was mine. For a long while, I really tried going over every conversation I ever had with him, trying to figure out what I could have done or said, but I came up with nothing. I have thought it might have something to do with them being transgender and wanting to make a total break with their past in order to reinvent themselves or something. I doubt I will ever know. I miss my friend, though. Story 51. Because they do not even know how I started hanging out with them. I wish I could say I have not heard this more than once in my life, but I have heard it at least twice from 2 different female friend groups. Like I am some ninja friend they could not shake? I do not know, just do not invite me. What actually happened is I became an actual friend to the popular girl and upset the natural order of things and had to pay the price. Life as an unaware scapegoat sucks. Story 52. I was not picking up the phone when he called at 2 a.m. or returning his drunken and indecipherable messages left at those times. This was back in the era of answering machines and not having a cell phone on you at all times. He said, "I guess we are not friends anymore." We reconnected years later when he got sober. Story 53. My bisexuality. He was a pen friend in another country, and we had been writing for several years with no intention or plan to ever meet or go beyond being pen friends. Then, when I told him I was bisexual, he immediately broke contact with me, even though it had no impact on his life at all. Story 54. I used to sell marijuana. I had a couple of friends to whom I sold frequently. One of them sent me a text message asking if he could trade nude photos of his girlfriend for 1/8 of an ounce, which was about $50 at the time. I took a screenshot of the message and sent it to her. Unfortunately, she believed him and thought I had faked it. They stopped being my friends and customers. Story 55. I told him Ben Shapiro was a foolish person and not some enlightened prophet. I also disagreed with him about Jordan Peterson's views on women and masculinity. Our politics and ideology had been drifting apart for years. It was a shame as he was my oldest friend. Story 56. Because I am Caucasian. Seriously, this is not a racist rant. When I was in elementary school, I had many Asian friends because that was the population of my neighborhood. In the 6th grade, they decided that they did not want to associate with anyone other than Asians. Story 57. We were meeting for coffee, 3 of us, and she was coming after her eye appointment. We texted that there were no seats available. We had been waiting for 20 minutes and told her to meet us elsewhere. When we were at the 2nd place, she called angrily, saying, "There's all kinds of seating." It was too cold to sit outdoors. She said, "You know I can't text except on my iPad." She refused to come, stating her eyes were dilated, and hung up on me. We did not realize she had to use her iPad. She managed to drive 3 miles with dilated eyes. My friend brought flowers and tried to talk, but she did not let her come in and was angry and unpleasant. My friend and I tried to reason that this was all a mishap, but she ended our friendship after 20 years. I told her if it had been me, I would have just gone home and figured we'd do it another time. She was unreasonable. Now, I do not wish to be friends again because of her behavior. Story 58. Friends through college and roommates for years after. Apparently, some girl he was crushing on told him she liked me. I told him, "No worries, I don't like her." He stopped talking to me completely and blocked me shortly after. Story 59. She stopped talking to me because she changed the day we were going to catch up. I could not make the new day. Apparently, I was disrespectful. Story 60. I said that Disney princess dresses and Marvel costumes were a lazy option for World Book Day because the school had emailed requesting they not be worn. She went absolutely crazy at me as if I had asked for inappropriate photos of her children. Story 61. I forgot to text him happy birthday because I was waiting on the results of a scan I needed while I was pregnant. My apology apparently was not good enough. Also, I had been on the phone with him, talking him through friend drama for hours the week before. He decided to end 11 years of friendship over this. Story 62. I did not really stop being friends, but my first boyfriend left me because I mentioned that I thought a character from an anime was cute. He considered it cheating. We were both about 14 or 15 years old. In retrospect, he was most likely cheating on me and projecting, because who concludes that thinking an anime character is cute is cheating? Story 63. It was in 2010 when I was at university in Indonesia. I used to live in a dormitory with 6 roommates on each floor, all male. My very close friend and I used to play Dota from dusk till dawn, watch Naruto and other anime, buy lunch together, and so on. One day, I came out as gay to him. I did not like him romantically. I simply told him that I am gay. After that day, we stopped being friends. He always closed the door when I walked past, never said hi, and everything shut off. He is from a strict Muslim family, so I understood. Story 64. I don't know. One day they were done. If they had told me, "You did this, you said that," I would have apologized. But no, they decided to make it awkward. After the 3rd day, I said this is their problem, not mine. I lost a mutual friend who was trying to manipulate me to get information on why the original acquaintance and I stopped talking. None of what she said made sense, and it was obvious she had chosen a side. Either way, a wise prophet once said, "It was no big loss, fly on albatross." Story 65. I had a good group of friends. I am very friendly and make many friends. I like to mix and mingle with them. I started dating a girl and included her in my friend group. We broke up, and my friends stopped hanging out with me. At first, it made me sad that my longtime friends did this, but then I realized it was for the better. I don't want people like that in my life. People who will just drop you out of nowhere. Story 66. My then husband and I bought a house on 1.2 acres of property, and they were embarrassed of their small ranch. Another friend in the group lived in the same neighborhood and remained friends with my husband. So, basically, the wife stopped being friends with me. Their house was adorable and on a decent-sized lot. Story 67. In 5th grade, the girl discovered my family lived in a double-wide trailer. I used to always get dropped off at the end of our dirt road and walk because even at 10, I was embarrassed about it. But one time, her mom insisted on driving me down. That was the last time we ever talked or hung out. Story 68. A close friend could not handle that I had political views different from hers. I explained that for me, it does not change the friendship because I appreciate people who think differently, and I might even learn something new and change my position. She did not think the same. She is the type who thinks you are automatically evil if you do not agree with her side. Story 69. I have epilepsy. One of my best friends in high school had never seen me have a seizure before. We had been friends for years. She saw me have a seizure for the first time and emailed me in the middle of the night saying she could not be my friend anymore because of my seizures. Never before and not again since has anyone cared about me having epilepsy. I understand being scared seeing it for the first time, but to end your relationship with your best friend? Honestly, that happened 20 years ago and we have spoken since, but to this day it still stings a little. Story 70. I am not the way I used to be. They do not like me, so to hell with them. I am not going to put up with that. If you are against me, I would have ditched you. I have a lot of things that I have to do. Story 71. Back in college, I had a friend who loved pineapple pizza. Absolutely obsessed. One night, we were hanging out and ordering food when I casually said that pineapple on pizza is a crime. She froze and genuinely looked offended. I laughed, thinking we were about to have a fun food debate. But no. She seriously replied that if I couldn't respect her taste in pizza, how could I respect her as a person? I thought she was messing with me, but then they stopped texting. Just like that, friendship was over because I disrespected pineapple. Story 72. Because I called her out for cheating on her long-term boyfriend. Apparently, I never see him because his mom has cancer and he drives 2.5 hours one way to see her and 2.5 hours back every day to continue college, is a valid reason to cheat on someone. I told her that was some real nonsense and she should just break up with him if she was going to be such a gross person. Yeah, well, you weren't married when you got pregnant, so you can't say anything to me, was a valid response. Anyway, that was the end of that friendship. Story 73. She moved to another country, then complained that I don't call her weekly to stay in touch. I don't even call my mum this much. We saw each other a few times a year when living in the same city. I get that she needed support, but this shift in dynamics and the resulting anger at me for not meeting undisclosed expectations was just wild. She basically ended our friendship. It hurt. Then we saw each other at an event we usually attend every year. She traveled from that foreign country for it. She wanted to become friends again, but only if I promised to try harder and make weekly calls. I'm still upset. We were close, but the mutual understanding is gone, and the harsh way she ended the relationship has left me unwilling to do anything about it anymore. Story 74. I misheard her saying ripple as nipple and asked if she said something about her nipple. I feel like she was looking to end the friendship anyway, and that was all she could come up with because no one else in the world would be offended by that. Story 75. They got mad at me for not asking enough about their relationship. It opened a can of worms for some other problems, and that was that. 20-something years down the drain. Story 76. I was diagnosed with cancer shortly after we started spending time together. She decided that my having less time for her was hurting her feelings and affecting her mental health. I had less time for her because I was going to the hospital every weekday for radiation treatments. In the evenings and on weekends, I was so exhausted that I could barely function. I told her I needed space and she ended the friendship. Honestly, it was a relief that she ended it by that point. I would have if she had not. Story 77. I still don't know. I met the man at work. We shared interests, our children were the same age, and we worked together, so we bonded closely. I have two close groups of friends, but because we work together and both like to golf, I ended up seeing much more of him than any of my other friends. We got along great, spoke regularly, hung out and played golf. I was moving house, and we planned to catch up for coffee. I suggested he come to my place to grab a coffee since I have a good coffee machine, and he could see the new house. I had done the same when he moved. He said yes, but then canceled. That was fine. The next time we planned to meet up somewhere, he said yes, but canceled again. Then he started ghosting me. I had changed departments at work, so I didn't see him there, and that was the end of it. To this day, I still have no idea what happened. When I see him at work, he says hi and then quickly leaves. I have enough going on in life not to dwell on it, but I would be interested in knowing what my offense was. Story 78. Because I didn't hang out with anyone except him, he was my only friend. I have very low social needs, so I never smothered him or anything like that. I was perfectly fine to hang out with him once a month. However, it really bothered him that I didn't have any other friends, so when he found new friends, he slowly faded me out. 6 years later, I was tested for autism and diagnosed with autism level 1. This explains why my social needs are low and why I prefer to be by myself most of the time. Story 79. There was a man I had been friends with for over 20 years. We had done many things together and talked weekly. Although he used to be politically neutral, he became a supporter of Donald Trump. I made it clear that I did not like Donald Trump, and for the last 5 to 7 years we avoided discussing politics. Earlier this year, he posted a meme claiming that every single member of the Democratic Party voted against a bill titled "No Tax on Tips." I replied that the referenced bill did not include any language about tips. That was a separate bill. I provided links to the official congressional website for both bills, which contained the full text of each. I was careful to use neutral and respectful language in my response. He unfriended and blocked me on all platforms. My wife, who had been friends with him for a long time, messaged him to ask why. He said that I had publicly disrespected him and his beliefs. However, he also deleted the meme, indicating he recognized I was correct. He was simply upset because he could not refute my response. Story 80. He stole from me. He was always trustworthy, but for some reason, he thought it was intelligent to steal from me. I would talk to him every day and help him with his mental health. The sad thing is he is a very lonely person and struggles a lot mentally. Story 81. I did not use the phone case they bought me because I was waiting for my current one to break since it was almost going to. Story 82. I was totally oblivious to the fact he was gay, though everyone else knew. On a night out with friends, I chatted with him about a girl being incredibly attractive. The day after, someone lied and told him it was provocation and disrespect because I was homophobic. He never talked to me again. I met him years later unexpectedly, explained the facts, and we both agreed we were naive and easily manipulated. Story 83. I once unfriended and blocked a guy on Facebook for saying my homemade baked beans looked dry. The bean-hating person. Story 84. I wouldn't write off a mutual friend who felt she was being abused. I believe women, and I know abuse is wrong. When I asked for further explanation, he said mean things and he's a terrible person. So he's abusive, just didn't seem sufficient. So I said, that's not been my experience, but I believe you. She began slowly fading me. I asked if that was what was happening. She replied, oh no, I'm just busy. Now she just ignores me. We have been friends for 20 years. She has been there for so much. But because I wouldn't end another long-term friendship, she is pushing me away. She has essentially taken the stance, if you are friends with him, I cannot be friends with you. It hurts. I am sad. Story 85. I was in an abusive relationship when I was 19. My finances were completely controlled and abused by my partner to fuel his methamphetamine addiction. When he used it, it always led to him becoming violent, especially if I asked about finances. We moved provinces that year with the excuse of helping him get sober, but it was really so that he could further isolate and abuse me. He even knowingly mixed sedative drugs into my drinks and used my cannabis pipes to smoke crack cocaine, methamphetamine, and downers, knowing that I would end up using them again. That was how serious the situation was. That year, my best friend got mad because I said I couldn't afford to do Secret Santa that Christmas with our friend group. She had seen him post on social media about all the things he bought us for Christmas, which amounted to only a $50 Walmart engagement ring and a kitten he got for free. All the cat supplies were bought with a gift card my mother gave me for groceries. I tried explaining the situation to her and discreetly telling her what was happening many times, but she ignored it. She told me she did not see our friendship continuing because I obviously did not prioritize our friendship and was selfish. She had also dismissed my disclosure of my brother's physical abuse when I was 16, saying that at least it was not the belt like her father used on her sisters in the Philippines, and told me to get over it because it was not that bad. She ended our friendship over a Secret Santa. We had been best friends for 5 years at that point and were close in high school, so much so that there were rumors we were dating and had not come out as lesbian yet, despite both having boyfriends. I felt abandoned and isolated at the time. She even started trash-talking me to our mutual friends so they would stop talking to me, and she was successful for a couple of years until they eventually reached out and apologized for how they acted and for believing her over me. They barely interact with her now. I have not seen her in almost a decade, and I am okay with that. I have healed from it, done a lot of work on myself and my trauma, but yeah, it was a pretty stupid reason in my opinion and felt like a scapegoat. Story 86. Because they could. People just start talking out of nowhere. No arguments. I can't say that I said anything stupid because, for all I know, I probably did say something they thought was stupid. All I know is one day we were cool. The next day we weren't. Story 87. I still don't know the reason. All I know, as I was ever told, is that you did nothing wrong. Apparently, there was some reason that wasn't me. Story 88. Completely unprompted. Another girl we worked with told me she was dating one of our other coworkers. I could have understood if she was mad at the girl who told me, but she has also made it absolutely clear through passive aggression that she wants nothing to do with me either, for having been told, I guess. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. Story 89. My best friend from high school, 20 years later, got upset because I did not put my hair in a French braid for her wedding. I was her bridesmaid. She never asked me to do so, and we never discussed hairstyles. She said I should have known since she loves French braids. It was foolish and petty. Story 90. Last year, I went to rehab but left early and wasn't ready to tell anyone for a couple of days. A family member was having issues and posted about it on Facebook. I commented, "Praying for your family." Well, my best friend of 40 years saw that comment, posted on Facebook that I had lied about being in rehab, said she was done with me, and tagged me in the post. I had never shared my struggles with addiction on Facebook, and we had so many mutual friends. I was so shocked and hurt. I haven't heard from her since. Story 91. A friend and I decided to coach our kids' sports team together. Another friend got upset because their child was not placed on my child's team. This was something I had absolutely no control over, as the league distributes players randomly. Since neither the friend nor her husband also coached, I could not request to coach with them. Then they turned against us, and several people we were friends with in town gradually distanced themselves from us. It was 5-year-old soccer. Story 92. I sent him a YouTube short about men in Japan who act as surrogate grandfathers for family events, mostly because I thought it was interesting, but also because the man in the clip was young, in his 50s. My friend is also in his 50s but American. We had been talking about him wanting to semi-retire. I made a joke about him starting a similar business in the United States. That was it. He went off about me being not that much younger than him, more than a decade, but okay, and said he wasn't old. He told me I was quickly losing my attractiveness, so I shouldn't be making fun of age. After that, he never spoke to me again. Maybe it was insensitive of me. I really didn't think it was an insult. Being in your 50s isn't old, but I guess I hit a sore spot. Oh well. Story 93. My ex-friend asked me to help her with getting groceries and preparing meals because she had a wrist injury. I said, of course, cooked some food, and delivered it with her groceries. She got angry and cut me off afterwards, saying that if I were a real friend, I should have offered to help with cooking and cleaning her apartment without her having to ask. Story 94. We dated for a while, broke up, and became friends. He helped me move back home when my fiancée died. When he asked me for sex on his birthday, I told him I was still mourning my fiancée. I have not heard from him since. Story 95. My wife and I did not want to risk infecting my friend with coronavirus disease 2019, as he was not vaccinated. That apparently ended our 35-year friendship. Story 96. We have been friends since we were about 2 or 3 years old. She always made fun of me. I felt a bit bad about it and told her how it bothered me, but she said they were always just jokes. I thought this was her way of showing friendship, so I started teasing her back. Nothing serious, mostly just regular friendly teasing. Then she lashed out at me, saying I was bullying her. And to this day, she spreads false stories about me for gossip. We were 14 at the time, but this was almost 6 years ago. Her most popular lie that she told everyone is that I apparently beat her up in my mother's car. I accidentally bumped her when we went over a speed bump and immediately apologized. This ruined the little reputation I had in high school and prevented me from making friends. Story 97. A good friend of about 4 years stopped talking to me because he was convinced I was sleeping with his wife. We are both in our early 30s. He based this on the fact that he kept finding empty Mountain Dew bottles in her car under the seats. During those years, I was drinking Mountain Dew like there was no tomorrow. Thankfully, I don't do that anymore. Plot twist. I am gay. He just had no idea. Story 98. They ran a red light, got pulled over, and posted about it on Facebook. I said, maybe you wouldn't get pulled over if you didn't run red lights. And he blocked me. Story 99. Last day of middle school, during the awards ceremony, my best friend won the award for getting the best score on our government test. I had actually beaten him on the preliminary test, but was sick on the day of the final test. Someone asked me if I was jealous, and I said, no, I'm really proud that my best friend won. That person told my friend, who immediately came to inform me I wasn't his best friend. I downplayed my comment, but I did not see him at all over the summer. When high school started in the fall, he was just another face in the hall. Story 100. I personally think this is unwise. My best friend never intended to marry my other friend, but she said yes anyway. She liked him but was mostly just going with the flow, unhappy, until she met an older man at work with whom she started to cheat. About 6 months later, she broke up with her fiancé, who was also my friend. I was there to comfort them both equally, but she cut me off for not completely removing him from my life. He never abused her or treated her poorly. He handled the breakup with grace. She demanded that everyone in their lives cut all contact with him without reason. Very strange. Story 101. I scheduled a ride-sharing service instead of offering to drive for a night out that I was paying for. She fully expected me to pay for her drinks all night while I stayed sober. Story 102. I was being weird and annoying because I asked my brother to not park his car illegally in the street and to park about 10 feet to the right in a spot. We were already about to hop a chain-link fence and trespass under a highway overpass to skateboard. I do not know what got into my brother, but that was the last time we hung out after being practically brothers for the last 3 years. Story 103. I was best friends with this girl from kindergarten to 5th grade. We spent the night at each other's houses every weekend and were practically inseparable until she began taking gymnastics and made new friends who did the same at our school. She decided to end our friendship when I was unable to do a cartwheel. The funny thing is all her new friends said they hated seeing her and me not being friends anymore. They brought her to me during recess and said they wanted us to make up. I said I would love to, but she wasn't having it. She said, "It's just not the same," and walked off. Story 104. A week after my 21st birthday, my friend took me to a popular tourist spot in the state with her live-in boyfriend to celebrate. The entire time, they fought about traffic, her outfit, getting marijuana, and her smoking marijuana from a stranger near a well-known homeless encampment. They argued about everything. I just wanted to drink some wine, buy a new dress, and enjoy the sunset. That didn't happen. On the way back to drop me off at the campus apartments, she was so mad she sat in the back and told me to sit in her seat in the front. Fine. While she sulked and, for the first time in hours, didn't pick a fight with her boyfriend, he started a conversation with me about Star Wars. We are both huge fans and had a heated discussion about the integrity of the prequels compared to the original trilogy. No animosity, just excited talk about the nerdiest stuff. It was the first time I had fun all day, which was supposed to be a celebration of my birthday. They dropped me off and I thought everything was fine. I was wrong. She blocked me on all platforms and ignored me at school. When I finally confronted her about her behavior, she explained why she was mad. That Star Wars discussion. She thought I was flirting with her boyfriend and no longer considered me a friend because she believed I was trying to steal him. It is obvious now that they are no longer together and haven't been for some time. She reached out a few years ago and actually asked why we weren't friends anymore. When I reminded her, she pretended not to remember but then said, "If that's what happened, you probably deserved it. Some days make you completely done with people." Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.